Hey guys, and welcome back to Free Plugin Friday, where we look at free plugins you can use in your productions. Today we are looking at another plugin from Analog Obsession, and that is the PREDD. The PREDD or PREDD. I think it's PREDD for the red preamp. Now this is meant to emulate the famous red preamps that the Beatles used at Abbey Road and many other people used at Abbey Road. It was a modified V72s, I think, and then they made their own plugin, their own preamps at some point based on that design, but basically a tube preamp. So we're going to take a look at it on this track that we previously looked at in the Rat video. Go check out that video if you haven't already. It's where I compare a bunch of Rat plugins. So at the moment I've got on the master bus. Let's have a look at the controls. Very simple what they do, and then we're going to put it on multiple sources and see how it sounds like that. So as with some other preamp plugins and some that Analog Obsession do, you have a mic and a DI input. Now this often depends on what plugin. With this one, I think it mainly just changes the tonality a little bit. I'm guessing that the mic has a slightly different gain structure and it's meant to be different impedance. Now, I'm not sure on the actual console if this is actually based off the original console or something like the Chandler remake. I'm not sure how different these sound with the same signal. Obviously, when you're using a mic and an instrument, those are two different things. But, you know, say using the mic input with a DI or the DI input, how different they sound. Be interesting to find out on some hardware, but they do change the sound on this. Then you have voltage gain, which is a stepped gain control. Now, as with a lot of great Analog Obsession plugins, this is gain compensated, so it really just works as a distortion control because you're not using a preamp in plugin form to get volume, you're using it to get a certain tone. You then have a pad, and this is just 20 dB more headroom. Again, gain compensated, so it just really cleans up the signal. You have a high frequency boost up to 10 dB. You have a high pass filter, known as a rumble filter. You have a phase reverse, which is always useful to have on a preamp. You have fine gain and then output. Now, I'm not sure if this fine gain affects distortion or if it's just a little bit more control than the output. I'm not sure, but we can have a look. And then I believe you can turn oversampling on and off. Now what we might do is keep the oversampling off for the most part. I could turn it on at some point. The reason for this is when I'm bypassing and turning it back on, whenever you have oversampling on, you get a little bit of a latency thing and it's hard to see the difference. I found with most of the Analog Obsession plugins, unless you're really pushing them, the difference is subtle because they don't have much aliasing going on. But it's always great to have oversampling there, especially when on mixdown, just to avoid aliasing. And we will have a look, like heavily distorted, maybe turn it on and off and see if we can hear a difference. So like I said, I've got it on the master bus. So let's just go through some of the controls and have a listen. And then we're going to put it on individual sources. So let's turn up the voltage gain and then flick between the mic and DI to hear the difference there. You can hear it starting to crunch up. Now it's a bit easy to kind of change this knob a bit too easy sometimes. Sometimes a problem with knobs and a mouse. Now that's really crunchy. Now most sources you're not probably going to go beyond there really, especially like we've got it here on a master bus. But I think it sounds great. It's got this low mid crunchiness going on. Just listen to the kick as it crunches out. Let's check between the mic and DI. Change the high end a little bit. What we're going to do is dial it back and compare the two in a more kind of realistic situation. So, mic. DI. Go back to mic. I think mic's a little fatter. Let's just compare it to the bypass again. Might be a bit of a volume difference. Bring the gain back one more. Just a little bit of crispiness going on that's nice. But okay, let's look at the pad. So we're going to turn it up to crunchy, and then you put the pad on, it cleans up. So if you've got really hot signals and you just want to add a little bit of mojo, but you don't want any kind of distortion, that pad's really useful to have. There's other plugins with pads on them, and they're actual pads, they cut it by 20 dB, and that's kind of annoying because I really just want to change the gain. So I like the automatic makeup in the back end for the kind of post signal when you put the pad on. Okay, let's look at this high frequency. Fairly smooth. That's pretty extreme, it's not harsh. It's got this high mids thing going on. Reminds me a little bit of a Neve, but a kind of slightly different curve. Maybe a little bit smoother than a Neve. Okay, let's look at the rumble filter. It's mainly going to affect the kick and bass. Not too aggressive, probably 6 dB, which is great because you don't want to go too aggressive. Sometimes it's good to remove some of that low end, but too aggressive, unless you're going for like dance music or something, can make it sound a bit unnatural. Now the polarity is not going to make a difference when we don't have two things to phase, but it's just a basic 180 phase switch and this fine gain. So that is a gain control. So let's turn the pad off, crunch it up a little bit, and have a look. Okay, that is very useful because this is steps of getting somewhere in between. And of course, output. So with a bit of distortion, bit of high end. Okay, so now let's go into each source, and what we're going to do is put them on and off to see what difference it makes overall. So first, let's jump into the drums. Do I want mic or DI? Let's have a listen. Mic sounds a bit bigger. I like that. Let's look at the bass. Let's get a little bit of grunt out of the bass. About DI. I like DI here. Just gonna back it off a little bit. Bypass. So on the loud notes, it's getting just a little bit of crunch there. Let's look at the right guitar. Now I don't want too much distortion out of this. This sounds a bit funny, just because it's post cabinet. I think there's good. And the left. When it's just where it's getting crunchy, turn it down a touch. Just gives it a little bit of sizzle to cut through. Okay, so let's go back. And so what we're going to do now is I'm going to grab all of these so you can see them all coming on and off. And we're going to compare them. So basically, when I bypass them all, you'll hear them all bypassed. And then I'll turn them all on, and they should all turn on at the same time. Let's just double check. That's all bypassed. Sweet. So let's start with them bypassed. Okay, let's turn them on. And this next beat. Bypass them again as we go around. I might back it off a little bit on the drums. And unbypass. So what I can kind of hear is you are getting a little bit more glue. You're getting a little bit of kind of more aggression. There is definitely this distortion going on, but it kind of helps it come together a little bit. Now, is this the perfect one-for-one recreation of a tube preamp? Probably not. It does sound a little fizzy on the high settings. That's something that I haven't heard from some plugins that do this. One is the Waves Red. I really love the drive in that plugin. There's just something about it. This is quite similar, but it's just got the high end's just a little bit different. But it's a free plugin, and the way that these plugins are coded is a bit different, because in order to have free plugins and this many, you can't really expect someone to be able to go into Abbey Road and model it, where Waves actually went into Abbey Road and modeled it. So it's very hard to compare a kind of algorithmic imitation of something theoretically to engineers going into the actual studio and modeling it. But I think for a free plugin, it definitely has some mojo about it, something to look at. And yeah, with the high filter and the rumble filter, you definitely can just get tones really quickly. And I think that's kind of key for a lot of these kind of plugins, especially from Analog Obsession, is that you can just jump in. So let's just before we go, check out the oversampling and see if you can hear any difference. So I'm going to switch oversampling on for all of them. Hopefully it all goes on at the same time. So let's switch on here. Okay, oversampling's on. Turn back off. Back on. What I might do is crank up all the gains and see if we can hear the oversampling make any difference. Turn off the clean because we're not putting it on the clean. Okay, let's turn oversampling off. Okay. I don't know if you could hear it on the cymbals, but the oversampling definitely helped, but that's pushing up the gain to extremes. I couldn't really hear much difference when we had more kind of sane levels, but when you are really pushing it up, those cymbals are definitely causing aliasing because we're distorting the shit out of it, which isn't surprising at all. So having oversampling is a very useful feature and something, yeah, I'd recommend you add when at least you're mixing down. Now, if you haven't seen the last two videos, I'm using my old PC, which is very old and was only a mid-range PC. It's a 4000 series i5, and I'm running, I think, 15 instances of guitar amps with IRs. I'm running Echo Boy. I'm running all this stuff that normally would even crash the system by itself, and putting 4 instances and turning Analog Obsession, the oversampling on this, still did not crash, did not cause any problems. And if you watch MoTT the other day, I think yesterday I put it up, and that, just a few versions of that took down the system. So it's very, very efficient, like a lot of Analog Obsession plugins. So there's no problem using the oversampling and putting this on multiple tracks, at least for me in my system. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Go check out all the other Free Plugin Friday videos. This month being December, you know, just because it's coming into Christmas and all of that, I am going to try and come out with more and more content. Like I said, my new PC, well, my 1-year-old PC has kind of kicked it. So it does take a lot more time to render. I can't do as complex plugin stuff in my DAW without it crashing while trying to screen record, which is a big issue. So you can't actually see me do mixes. So that does slow down the process a lot, but I am trying to come out with a lot more content for December and January. So hopefully while you're on holiday, you have a lot more to watch. So thank you, and I'll see you next time.